You've seen us on some of the other videos, but yeah, we're here, stormy duo. Doesn't mean that we're stormy as a couple. Just means that we're just more stormy as
We
we
love
love
storms.
storms. Not quite tornado chaser type stairs type all that kind of crap, but more of just loving storms. And we make a great duo. Have for 15 years and counting. So put up with me. I put up with him, and let's just say it all works. A little bit unconventionally though. So, but we actually came on minimum wage at some point on some start that dialogue about the whole idea of minimum wage and why are we choosing to do this now? Because voting day is just barely a week. It's a week from yesterday. It is on November 8th, 2022. So get out and vote. I mean, it doesn't matter party lines, anything like that. It's like if you are legally registered to vote and alive, vote once. You can't vote once per address. You can't vote once per county. You can't vote all this other stuff. You
From
get
the dead.
yeah, you get one vote, and that's only if you are alive. That vote actually counts. We're not trying to silence votes here, not in any way, shape, or form. But the dead don't need to vote.
No. They're not qualified. They're dead.
Precisely. But what got us started on this whole thing tonight is the Initiative 433. It is a thing here in Nebraska to raise minimum wage. And surprisingly, it has a lot of bipartisan support. We are actually disappointed with how much bipartisan support that it has because the minimum wage was never intended to be a living wage for people. It was a start thing, and it gave people a thing to jump off of. Well, that was the initial idea of it back when it was created, and unfortunately, I didn't look up this. I'll have to look that up here on my phone in a second. But the whole Initiative 433, I'm going right to their website right now so I can read this off to you. It says, our communities do better when every Nebraskan can care for themselves and their loved ones, rewarding hard work. It's wrong that Nebraska parents who work full time don't make enough to get by. Our economy should respect and reward hard work, but right now a full-time minimum wage worker makes just $9 an hour. That's less than 19,000 a year. Initiative 433 would gradually raise the minimum wage so hardworking Nebraskans such as healthcare aides, classroom aides, wait staff, and skilled assembly line workers can earn enough to feed their family and pay rent. It will also help thousands of Nebraska children whose parents earn minimum wage. And then their whole thing is, are you ready to join us? And I thought, oh, it's not going to show up real great on there. And I just realized that that's completely backwards. I apologize. I wasn't even considering
might
that.
help if you guys are dyslexic out there.
Yeah,
which she is.
Being dyslexic might actually come in handy on this one. But I mean, it sounds good on the surface, like a lot of other stuff does. I mean, it can sound great at least in the short term, but in the long term, we're only in this situation because inflation is the highest it's been since the 1970s. In almost 50 years, we have not seen inflation like we are seeing under this administration.
It's on steroids.
And it's just the whole idea of, oh, raise the minimum wage. I think California is now like 15. They're trying to push it to like $20 an hour or something like that out there. And they just keep wanting to raise it higher. But what they don't realize is the cost of everything keeps going up with it. So raising the minimum wage is not an answer.
It's like pushing the can down the road. They've done this, multiple times before. And I remember this minimum wage stuff being talked about since they entered the workforce.
And yeah, as we started out in the workforce, I'm sure we each made what quote unquote minimum wage was back in the time. And I mean, now he has a much different job, and I have a much different job. I actually own my own company, and go capitalism. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that, but the world is your oyster, literally. It's like if you don't think you can find a pearl, then make one. It's like that's how oysters create pearl. They start with a single grain of sand and grow it from there. And the possibilities are endless. All you have to do is want something. And there's so much information out there, almost too much information in the information aid. And yes, I get really heated about this, but it just, people don't need to rely on the bare minimum to survive. If you're relying on strictly the bare minimum, then
something's wrong.
Yeah. And I'm not targeting anybody going, you're wrong or anything like that. But people need to look at the big picture. It's like it's a thing of inflation. It's the cost of goods. It's all this. Trying to think of how I could put this without getting our channel banned. That's why I tend to curse a lot in real life, and I don't want to give
It's a
the.
challenge in this world.
But just this administration. Let's use this as an instance. Multiple pipelines are being rerouted, redone. A lot of oil rigs and drilling opportunities have been stopped or canceled that are in progress. And well, I'll use one of his own quotes. He said the other day that gas is at 3.30 something a gallon, and at least it's not the $5 a gallon when I took office. Really? It was
That's an
2.36 a gallon
improvement.
when he took office. I mean,
And
fact check us on that. You guys could look it up yourself. Gas was not $5 a gallon when he took office.
no, it
Not
raised pretty
even
quick
close.
too.
And we're supposed to celebrate record inflation and all of this other stuff. And they're going, oh, well, he gave Social Security an 8.7% increase. And people are comparing that to the minimum wage initiative. And I'm like, wait. He did not do that. Richard Nixon put in place in 1972 the thing that the Social Security benefits to the disabled and to the retirement were to raise annually with the cost of living increase. With inflation being where it is at the moment, that is why there is an 8.7% increase to Social Security in January. It has nothing to do with, oh, I signed this into law, so I'm going to act all Mr. Dementia himself. Let's just put it that way. But he's taking all the credit for this for something that Richard Nixon did back in 1972. Now you're probably thinking, okay, cost of living increase, that the whole thing of Social Security isn't that the same as minimum wage? No, because these people have paid into Social Security their whole lives with retirement, and then the disabled. Okay, there's people out there that fake disabilities, but then there's other people like me who, yes, I am a legally disabled individual. I may own my own company, but we're not breaking down any glass ceilings here, people, at least not yet. But it's not the same. I mean, these people pay into the system their whole lives and they don't even get enough to survive on. And yet these people honestly making minimum wage, the whole thing is $19,000 a year as per their own website. And Social Security to the average disabled person is about $6,000 a year. Huge difference. So really there's no comparison on that. But I don't want to get too lost in the thing. Let's rotate back to the whole minimum wage thing. It's just, it's not sustainable because they're going to raise the minimum wage here and the cost of goods and services are going to go here. And then they're going to do this. And then it's just going to be
And it's going to
a
raise.
stair stepper.
They're going to raise taxes. People are going to be put into bigger tax brackets. So I mean, what actual benefit is there? There
Yeah.
really isn't.
People are like, oh, if I made this much a year, guess what? If you make that much that you're talking about, just insert amount. You can insert amount anywhere from the lowest bracket of the what do they call middle class. Sorry, brain fart on that one. But you can take the lowest bracket of middle class all the way up to, let's say, Elon Musk. I mean, you're talking two basic extremes right there from just outside of poverty level all the way up. You increase the taxes on all that, and you're like, oh well, the rich don't pay taxes. Bull. The top 1% that everybody's always complaining about. Like I said, I'm trying to watch my language on this one. They pay the majority of the taxes. People don't stop and look at that. That the very top wage earners, even though they get the tax breaks, they're still paying this much of. Just trying to get my hand. They're paying this much of the tax debt, whereas I mean, just average Americans, it's a small percentage of that. And so it's not about, oh, tax the rich. Yeah, it's not the whole idea of trickling down or trickling up. It doesn't work like people would think it would. I mean, if we allow people to live up to their potential, and we're not that we're allowing them to, but if people actually went outside their comfort zone and tried to do beyond a minimum wage job. Yes, mean, okay, it gives employers a good rate to start with, but there's a lot of employers out there that pay even above minimum wage. The federal minimum wage right now, I believe is at 7.25, and in Nebraska, it's at $9. So I mean, there's a bit of a difference there too, because difference is a little bit differentiates a little bit by state. But federal is at 7.25 right now. But they're trying to make it where even the federal is going to be like $15 an hour, and I'm like, what is? Look at the cost
Yeah.
structure. Look what that's going to do to everything. Many families, including ours, we live paycheck to paycheck. I hate to admit that, but and maybe you're one of those families too. It's a lot more of us than we realize. But with the costs and stuff keep raising, the our bank accounts are dwindling, and pretty soon everybody's going to be in the negative, and then the homeless issue is going to be way beyond what people even think. What is now middle class will be homeless in 10 years.
I was just going to add, I mean, there's other parts of raising the minimum wage equation too. I mean, not just, raising the wage, but I mean, it squelches, the ability for employees to reward their best workers. I mean, it takes away from incentive to do better.
Like, I'll use the thing of Henry Ford, and I know that that goes like even way back in the years. But a lot of people refer to the UAW, which is the United Auto Workers. I grew up in Michigan, so kind of grew up a lot around that stuff. But way before unions and stuff got involved and things were delegated by the government and things like that, Henry Ford with the Ford Motor Company gave his employees a set of work hours during the week, roughly 8 to 10 hour work days, 5 days a week, and they got the other time off. Whereas a lot of the other companies around at the time, their employees were working 12, 16 plus hours a day, 7 days a week, and there was nothing to basically protect them, supposedly until the union steps in. But with Henry Ford, he took that initiative because there weren't all of these crippling government regulations on top of him, that his thing actually created kind of a snowball effect that helped a lot of the other workers in the auto industry with the other companies as well. And if we take that free choice away from these companies by forcing these regulations and regulatory stuff and all of this, and minimum wage is just the tip of the iceberg on that. I mean, if you could pick up just a single hair on my head, that's about the tip of the iceberg on this whole thing of the regulatory stuff that is just killing the industries out there. But it's a start. And what we're doing basically with this is we're appealing to you to vote no on Initiative 433 or on similar initiatives in your
Years
states.
years ago, back in the '90s, when it was between Dole and Clinton, there were several other candidates running, and Steve Forbes mentioned about the flat tax. And then later on, things were mentioned about having a sales tax. And right now, it seems like there's, no opposition to this minimum wage stuff.
No, and it's so saddening to see.
People from both sides are,
Yeah, they're all pushing this right now. And people are going, well, Republicans are behind it too, and Democrats. It's bipartisan. We use the term a lot in this house and a lot of things other, but of the term rhino, it's Republican in name only. I'm sure there's dinos too, Democrats in name only, and just weird little acronyms on that. But it's people who aren't being true to the ideas of what the parties represent. And as conservatives, it's important to be fiscally responsible. And by the government federally enforcing something, or by the government in your state enforcing something like Initiative 433 is not nationwide, it is a Nebraska based thing. But
and,
every state has their own version of it, or will have their own
and
version
of course,
of
when
it.
they run these ads, they make them sound all kind. They play the piano music that sounds all sweet and all that.
It
Don't pay
shows
attention
parents
to
and
that.
kids, and it tugs
Get
on the
real about what it
heartstrings.
does.
It's just trying to tug on the heartstrings, and instead they're playing us like the puppets instead of tugging on the heartstrings, or at least that's what they're attempting to do. And the reason that we are so strongly against Initiative 433 is just because, like I said, it's a snowball
If
effect.
there's no opposition out there, we're going to be the opposition.
I mean, somebody has to be a voice out there.
Exactly.
I'm not saying we have all the answers. Hell, not even close. It's like there's topics that we're talking about tonight. Like, when was minimum wage even like brought to be?
We're just two Americans in America. I mean, they're just simple patriots that love this country and want to see the best for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a registered Republican. I'm a registered independent, but I would be a registered constitutional conservative if that was an option in Nebraska. Nebraska has a Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party, and something else. But I don't identify with those other ones, so I chose Independent. But like I said, I would consider myself a constitutional conservative. Honestly, that's probably more in line where he is too.
I do
He,
lean more Republican, but I'm
yeah,
more of the real, not the fake ones that are out there.
yeah,
And there's a
actually,
lot of those lately.
way too many to even like, yeah. And like I said, it's a mess of the situation. Please do your research. Read up on not just Initiative 433, on minimum wage history, on what minimum wage has done to the economy, on how minimum wage affects
How
inflation.
many people have less jobs that are making more? It's doing the opposite of what people think it's doing.
Yeah, it's not creating all these jobs, and it's not helping all these people step out of poverty. That's I'm trying to think of the word to use without cursing. Sorry, I'm too used to cursing in my everyday life. Ugh. They say more creative people use the F word than any other. So that must mean I'm pretty darn creative.
She drops a few bombs. You just
More than a
can't do
few.
it on here.
No, we got to be careful on here. YouTube's guidelines are very strict on that. So, but we were going to put this on Facebook, but then Facebook silences everybody so much, and we have a small family of subscribers on Stormy Duo, and I'm hoping that we can grow that with conversations like this and
We've talked
other
about
topics.
doing things like this for a while, and this is kind of our first, deal in this.
Yeah,
So,
we're not
we're a
really.
little rough around the edges, but we're gonna try and make more of these.
Yeah, most definitely. So, if you like what we're hearing, if you disagree with us, put something in the comments. I mean, if you have questions, if you want to say you're wrong, you're stupid, man,
We've heard it all
guess
before.
what? We believe in the right to free speech. That includes even hate speech, as long as you're not threatening somebody directly or inciting violence against a person, place, or thing. So, there's the comment section. And you know what? If you agree with any part of this that we've talked about today, feel free to share this. This is just the start of an open dialogue on subjects like this that we are going to try to bring to you. Are we experts by any means? No. We're average, everyday Americans. And we all have to start somewhere, right?
So this is our start.
Hmm. So, like and subscribe to Stormy Duo, and we will do our best to keep bringing you interesting and informative content
Things that
that
a lot of times don't get talked about.
and we'll bring it to you in a way that we're not going to be the standard reading off a teleprompter type person. No.
We're not the kind of just go and hop on the bandwagon like we see a lot of people out there do. And this is on both parties, both sides of the aisle, where people are hopping on the wagon.
Yeah, it's just we're not likely not going to get in trouble for this, but it's a shit show. So I've heard worse than that on here that they haven't pulled accounts on. So I'm just trying to be careful not to use the F bomb. I mean that'll get us in big trouble. So, but yeah, let's work together and try to get America back on track. Like I said, we can't do it all by ourselves, but all we need is to start taking baby steps in the right direction, and one voice can move mountains. So, and hopefully with two.
There's just two of us. If you got ideas, it's America. Go and share them.
Yeah, you've got YouTube, you've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got TikTok, you've got all these platforms. Show us what you got. If you're willing to listen to us, we're willing to listen to you. Who knows? We just might change the world together and us. So, bye for now.
20 minutes.